Welcome to my channel on the best of fantasy. The other day I saw a video that absolutely tugged at my heart. It was a video made by Mike from Mike's Book Reviews. He did a tag video, in fact. Even though he wasn't actually tagged by someone, he just wanted to do a tag because, well, no one ever tags him for whatever reason it might be. And the pathos of that situation absolutely spoke to me. And so I decided I will do a tag. And I will tag Mike so that he feels tagged. Among us booktubers, it's a wonderful thing that we do when we tag each other. It's just being part of a community. And for whatever reason, maybe it's, I don't know, if there's a proper analogy here, but perhaps it's because, well, think back to when we were kids. And there was when we formed teams, and there was always that one little kid who nobody picked. Yeah, well, I don't know, maybe that's not quite the right analogy. Let me think of another one here. Oh, or maybe it's more like when a really popular, attractive person is ironically lonely because no one has the courage to ask them out. Yeah, I'm not sure if that really works either. But you know what I mean, right? So for whatever reason, poor Mike hadn't been tagged, and so I am stepping forward. In fact, this is a very fortuitous thing because I actually have been tagged myself by none other than the wonderful Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads. He had done the Spartan tag, and then I'm way overdue to respond to his tag. So this is actually really perfect. Now, if you don't know Andrew, I will put a link in the description to the tag that he did, the Spartan tag, as well as the creator of the tag, and that is Tom from Tom's Thoughts. I will put a link to both of those videos. But Andrew, he's a great guy, full of energy. In fact, I think he might even be close to Alan from the Library of Alexandria level of enthusiasm. So he's a lot of fun to watch. So actually, they'd be pretty close. That would be an interesting contest. But anyway, let's go ahead and do this tag. All right. So the Spartan tag. The first question or the first prompt is to suggest a book with a soft magic system. So I'm going to go with the first thing I think of here, and I'm going with First Law, the First Law trilogy, which begins with the blade itself. Very soft magic. Magic doesn't play a huge role, but it is there, and it is not explained in detail how the magic works. So I think everyone would agree First Law, and I kind of like that. I like the, generally speaking, I tend to prefer soft magic myself. Patrick Leo did a very interesting video recently on this topic, actually, of soft and hard magic and all that. But I tend to prefer the soft myself because I like that mystery, that sense of wonder, not exactly knowing how magic works. That's fun for me. And I will recognize, though, that it can be implemented, a hard magic system can be implemented into a story in an interesting way. It's kind of like the character and the reader both go on this journey of figuring out how the magic works. That's something you see, I think, fairly frequently in a story with a hard magic system. But I digress. So I'm going with First Law, one of my very favorite series. Absolutely, Joe Abercrombie is a fantastic writer. So that's what I'm going with. And P, the next one is P. The next prompt is suggest a book with a peasant, P for peasant, Peasant Class. So I'm going with The Poppy War. And I'm answering this because there are a lot of actually fantasy books with peasants, but the peasants in the Poppy War are kind of important in the sense that there's, well, revolution is part of it. So that's a big deal in the Poppy War, absolutely. And the main character, Rin, also comes from a kind of peasant background, in a manner of speaking, I guess, sort of. But there you go. There's my answer. A book with a peasant class, the Poppy War, both the book and the trilogy, the Poppy War trilogy. Next one is the first A in Spartan, and the prompt is suggest a book that features an aristocracy. Okay, so again, I think fantasy is full of aristocracies, but we're going to go with Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogy, beginning with Assassin's Apprentice. And this is a good one, I think, because not only is there an aristocracy, but they have cool names that suggest their aristocraticness, right? Like there's King Shrewd, and there's Chivalry, and Regal. So these are very royal names, right? So I think that one's a good answer for a book that features an aristocracy. All right, well, what's next here? R. The next prompt is the R, and it is suggest a book with a hard magic system. Aha. That follows the rules. So the rule, that's where the R comes from, the rules. Okay. So standard answer probably here would be anything by Brandon Sanderson, but I'm going with Brent Weeks, the Lightbringer series. I only read the first book, The Black Prism, but it's pretty obvious to me, at least in there, I hope this is true, that it's a very hard magic system. Lots of rules. A lot of the story is about the discovery of that magic system, and so it gets to be explained to all the rules and intricacies of it, get to be explained to the character and the reader, so that's kind of fun. So that's what I'm going with there. T, we're going with T next. Suggest a book with a training montage. Oh, again, a pretty standard thing in fantasy. Let's go. I mentioned Sanderson a moment ago. Let's go with the Stormlight Archive. Both, I think, The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance feature a lot of training sequences, right? Training montages. I'm thinking particularly of Kaladin, but everybody who's learning to use their Stormlight powers or whatever in there, they have to go through some kind of training or other. But Kaladin, his training is pretty darn cool. I think people would agree with that one. So that's what I'm going with, training montage. All right, next one is the second A. The prompt is to suggest a book with accessible prose. So A is for accessible. The first thing that comes to my mind is John Gwynne's Malice, the first book of The Faithful and the Fallen. In fact, the whole series is very accessible in terms of the prose. So that's what I'm going with. That's the first thing that popped into my little head. So we're going with The Faithful and the Fallen, which I enjoy immensely. And I have a lot of nostalgia already for the series, even though I just read it earlier this year. Yeah, it's a great series, very classic in many ways, classic fantasy, and warms the heart. Yeah, so, but very accessible, I would say. Yeah, great. In fact, I started recommending that as a kind of a beginner's fantasy in a way for adults, people who are wanting to get into the genre. I think it's a great series for that. So, yeah, accessible. Okay, and then the last one is N. And the prompt here is suggest a book that features or gives nightmares. Okay, nightmares. Oh, I have the perfect answer for this one. Dreams of the Dying. No, just Dreams of the Dying by Nicholas Litzau, one I recently read and reviewed. Major, as the title suggests, there are dreams. They're a big part, and most of them are pretty nightmarish. They are scary and compelling dreams and a big part of the story. So yeah, that's the perfect answer for that prompt, I would say. And now that the prompts are done, the moment of truth. Here it comes, Mike. The last thing I have to do here is to tag people. And so, the moment has come, Mike. I tag Mike from Mike's Book Reviews to do the Spartan Fantasy Book Tag. Until next time.